Hello and welcome to the current session. In this we'll be studying about continuous integration using Jenkins, Git and GitHub. Fine. Now before I start, I want to talk just about continuous integration as a word, right? Now there are a lot of tools which can implement continuous integration. Jenkins and Git are just a part of them. Fine. Now what is continuous integration first? Let us talk about that. What is the need of continuous integration? Then we'll see how Git and Jenkins they help us in that. Fine. Now we have studied about SVN earlier in the earlier topics. Fine, off my website. If you look at this in the SVN Maven part, I had talked about subversion, SVN, right? What was subversion? Subversion was basically a tool which could maintain your code in a team, right? Similarly, Git is also there. If there are multiple members in your project, for example, member 1, member 2, member 3, member 4, there are multiple members in your project, multiple team members. They can access the project which is lying on a server. Okay, this is your server on which your project, your Selenium code is lying, right? So you can download the code on your local machine, fine, and start working on it, right? If member 3 uploads new code, then all the other members can download the latest version of the code and start working on them. So this is what Git and SVN they do, right? They help you to actually maintain the version of your code on the server, and as well as multiple people when they work, they can download the code from the server or the repository. We also call it repository. Okay, right. Now there is a problem in this scenario. Fine. The problem is, suppose M1 as a member downloads the code on his machine. Fine. And he downloads, say, 3 Java files. M2 as a member also downloads 3 Java files, the same 3 Java files on his machine. Fine. M1 makes the changes on his machine as per his needs, and he is not knowing that M2 is also doing some changes in the same files. So both of them are not interacting with each other. These two team members, they don't know that they are modifying the same files according to their own needs. Fine. And what happens is that M1 he modifies the files and all, everything works on his local system. Okay, whatever workspace has he got on his local machine, this workspace works fine. Similarly, M2 makes the changes and everything works fine on his machine, right? Now M1, what he does, he checks in the code back in the repository. What happens is that everything starts working. The status of the repository right now is okay. Everything is building. Okay, build is okay now at this stage. But as soon as M2 sends his set of files, right, he is not knowing M1 has already changed the files, like the files which M2 had checked out, right, those files have been modified earlier by M1. He is not knowing. So as soon as he checks in, the system fails, right? Okay, once the system fails, the build fails basically. The build on the server, it fails. So if the build fails on the server, that means your project is unstable, nothing is going to run. Fine. And what happens is that in near future, M3 as a person, he is not knowing that the build is failing on the server, and he can also download the code which is not working actually into his workspace. So there can be a lot of confusion. Alright. So the problem, we need to identify what's the problem. Okay. The problem is that people can modify same files at one time, right, or at different times. Say one does in the morning, other does in the evening. He is not knowing that the files have been modified. Fine, right. Then the challenge is that you don't get to know that build has failed, right? M2 deploys the code on the server. He doesn't come to know that whether everything is working fine or not. Okay, either maybe the customer tells that something is wrong, or the server guys detect it, or somebody else detects it. Fine. So it again becomes a problem, right? And especially when there is a time lapse. We have observed that when there is a time lapse, okay, for example, M2 deploys it in the evening time, he goes to his home, everything is okay. Next day they all come back and there are mails in the inbox that nothing is working, nothing is working. So over 12 13 hours have passed, and then people start blaming each other that okay, you were the first guy to check in and he was the last guy to check in, to check out. So that becomes a problem. There is eventually a lot of time lapse. Okay, you don't come to know that the build has failed on the server. Okay, so to actually get out of this situation, right, we need a tool, we need a mechanism through which we can inform the members of the project that something is wrong on the server, right? Okay, so that is why we use this tool known as Jenkins, and Jenkins is used for continuous integration. Continuous integration means that multiple people deploying on the server and doing the development. Okay, now what Jenkins as a tool does, okay, it builds the system as soon as the deployment. You can build the system when deployment is done. Okay, if the build fails, Jenkins can send immediate emails to people working in the project that fine, something something has gone wrong. Okay, something is wrong with my keyboard as well. Just a minute. Okay, right. So immediate emails can be sent out to the people, right? And the most important thing is that there is no time lapse. If the build fails, immediately the email goes to the people in the project that fine, the build has failed, you need to look at this at a very urgent basis, right? And people can start working on it, right? Moreover, using Jenkins you can periodically build your projects as well, right? What you can do is that you can schedule builds that every 12 o'clock in the night, every day the build should happen, or it should happen on every Sunday, or it should happen every minute or every hour. You can periodically build your project, and whenever the project fails, the emails can go. Or you can build the project when the deployment is done on the server. Fine. So Jenkins will be there on the server over here, and it will keep an eye on the repository whether the build is being successful or not when multiple people are checking in and checking out from the server. Alright, fine. Moreover, we can also run our ant scripts with Jenkins. We can also run Maven builds with Jenkins. We can do a lot of things. There are a lot of plugins, lot of reporting plugins and all. So we'll talk about that. So let's start. Fine. Right. So the way we will be going is, first we will be looking at Jenkins. Fine. Then we'll be looking at Git, and we will be moving further. We'll be combining both of them, right? And let's start. I told you what continuous integration is and how Jenkins can help us. Fine. Let's talk about downloading and installing Jenkins. Right. So how do you download and install Jenkins? This is the URL. Fine. You can download this file later on as well. Right. This is the URL. If you go to this particular URL, hold on, it will tell you how to install Jenkins. Okay, it's not loading. Anyways, you just go to Google and type download Jenkins. You go to the first link which comes up, jenkinsci.org. You click on this link and you see that latest version is 1.571, right? You can download this war file. Okay, I have already downloaded it and it's lying on this path F5. This is the war file which is lying on my machine. So you copy the path where you have kept the war file and open your command prompt and go to that particular path. Right, you have to start Jenkins from the war file, and the command to start Jenkins from the war file is, this is the command, java-jar jenkins.war. Make sure you are at the path of war file and you give this command, and when you run it for the first time, like it's already deployed on my system, I am installing Jenkins on my local machine, right? So when, see, it will load lot of things when you install it for the first time, fine. And when you run it, okay, how do you run it? First you'll have to wait for the message to come up, info log Jenkins is fully up and running. Fine, you see this message you see this message, and once this message comes up, you go to your URL localhost:8080. you just type this in your browser and run. You will see this window has come to me immediately. For you it will be coming with a delay. You might get a window like this installed as a Windows service, or you might get a message. You'll not get this message installed as a Windows service. You'll get a message that Jenkins is configuring itself or something like that. Okay, so you just wait for some time and it will install and you'll see the screen. Right, so right now currently I just have one project over here. You can ignore it. Alright, this is the side panel of Jenkins, which is quite impressive and quite important as well. Right, now once you have installed it, you can also configure it to run as a Windows service. You go to manage Jenkins and you go to configure system, you go to install as a Windows service. You can install it as a Windows service. Installing it as a Windows service means that whenever you execute your Jenkins, or whenever you start your Windows, okay, whenever you start your Windows, Jenkins.exe, you will see it running automatically in the processes. Okay, that means Jenkins will automatically start when you start your PC. So this is what is meant by installing Jenkins as a Windows based service. I do not do that because I don't want it to run every time when I start my PC. Okay, I simply run it using command prompt. I start it. Alright, so now this is how you configure Jenkins or you install Jenkins in your machine. Fine. Now let's start with a small example of what Jenkins can do for you. Alright, so over here, if you look at this small link on the top, new item, fine, you click on that link and you will see 5 options over here: build a freestyle software project, build a Maven project, build a multi-configuration, and a lot of things are there. Right, let's start with very simple thing, build a freestyle software project. Fine, let's start with very simple thing, that I'm going to build my freestyle software project and I'll call it as my project 1. Fine, and on the next page you will see lot of options. Okay, we will go through all of these options one by one. Let's keep our starting very simple. Okay, let's keep the starting very simple. Fine, this is the name of the project. You can give some descriptions. There are some options over here: discard old build, this build is parameterized, disable build. So a lot of things are there. We'll talk about them. Fine, now as I told you in the diagram earlier, okay, oh sorry, just a minute. As I told you earlier, Jenkins can be integrated with any source code management system like CVS, or you can integrate it with, hold on, Git or SVN as well. Subversion is SVN. Fine. So right now I'll select none, that I don't want to integrate with anything. You will not get this Git option in your PC because Git has to be installed as a plugin inside Jenkins. I'll talk about that later on. Fine. Initially, for time being, as a learner, just select none. That I don't want to integrate my Jenkins with any project which is lying on any server. Okay, I'll say that my project is lying on my local machine only. In some C drive or D drive, we can say that if we select none. Right. So basically, I'll select none over here. Build triggers is one of the again options which I will be talking about in some time. Okay, I will not talk about it right now. And build, how the build has to be made. I'll select that, execute the shell command, echo percentile time. So what is echo percentile time? Well, on command prompt, if you, hold on the command prompt, if I go on the command prompt, oops, if I just type echo percentile time percentile, it gives me the current time of my system. Okay, so this command is the command which I will execute, a shell command which I will execute through Jenkins. Fine. So later on we will grow, we will learn more and more, and we'll start executing the Selenium projects this way. Okay, so I'm just executing a simple shell command using Jenkins. This is the project. I've said that there is no code management system, and I just want to execute this shell command with Jenkins, and I save my project. Fine. As soon as I save it and you go to back to dashboard, you will see the project over here, my project 1. Fine. You click on this drop down and you say build now. When you say build now, the project will be built. Okay, and if you click on the project, you will see this is the build history coming up. The last build was 3.9 seconds ago. You click on this link and then you go to the console output. Okay, and you will be seeing, like in my case, cannot run sh. There is some error coming up. Hold on, just a minute. What did I say? Oh, by mistake. Sorry. It should not be shell command. It should be execute Windows batch command. I'm sorry. It was a Windows command. Echo percentile. I selected the second option by mistake. Right. And you save it. And now you go to your project and you say build now. It will build the project, and you go to the project. You go to this link and click on console output. You will see that the time gets printed over here. Whatever output you used to get on command prompt, fine, the same output you get it in the console. Okay, so this is a basic project in which when I run the project, Jenkins executes a command line command. Okay, so if you can relate it, then in the video 9 of the training, fine, say for test-ng, where I'd explained test-ng, all the customization of reports and listeners and all, I was using command prompt, right? I used command prompt to execute and I used command prompt to even execute Maven. Fine. So probably I can give the same command prompt commands over here, right? And which can execute Ant as well. I can do that, right? You can be inclined towards that as well. Okay, so we will talk about that. Fine. Now moving further, this is a normal project which has been executed, which has executed a batch command. Fine. Now I'm going to modify this project. I'll go to configure. Okay, and what I'll do is I want that this project should be built at certain intervals. The build should run say every 6 hours or every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes, or it should run every time this project should automatically get built, say on every Sunday of the week. If I want something like that, I can also do that. For that, we have got build triggers option. Right now I was running it manually. Fine. I was going to the project and I was saying that build now option. But what if I want to run this project at certain intervals of time? You can also do that. Okay. So for that we have got build triggers. There are various types of triggers like build after other projects are built. There can be multiple projects in Jenkins. Fine. Suppose project A is dependent on project B. Once the project A is built, project B should start, so you should check this and you should select the corresponding options. Fine. Let's look at this example. Paul SCM. SCM is what? Source Code Management System. Right now I am saying that my source code is not lying anywhere. Fine. It's a simple project. But suppose my source code is lying on Git or it's lying on SVN or some other CVS. Fine. So this Jenkins can poll it. That means you can tell Jenkins that go and look at the source code management system, poll it every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes and build it to check whether something has not broken on it or not. Right? The way I had explained earlier that if something breaks on the server, then everything goes for a toss. So Jenkins is the tool which primarily protects that. So you can tell Jenkins that you can poll a source code management system frequently, and you can actually report a failure. Fine. Now how do you report a failure? How do you send emails with Jenkins to report a failure? I will talk about it in some time. Let's talk about this action. Right now we don't have any source code management system. Right. We'll talk about GitHub and all later on. Let's talk about this action, that build the project periodically. Fine. So what kind of period you should build your project on can be mentioned over here. Now this is a little tricky. If you click on this question mark, you will get a description. Okay, there's a big huge description, you can read it, but what the crux of this is that minute, hour, day of the month, and day of the week. These are the 5 parameters. Okay, minute is 0 to 59, hour is 0 to 23, day of month and month is 1 to 12, and day of the week 0 to 7. Right. So based on this, based on these values, we'll have to put some, you can say, a kind of formula over here which will instruct Jenkins. Now let me tell you few of the examples over here that will help you out. Hold on. Right. So I have these few examples. Okay, H is a generic term over here. Fine. Let's talk about very simple thing. This example. Hold on. Let me put this thing. 00 means 0 minutes. Okay. We segregate it something like this. Minutes, then day of the month, sorry, minutes, then hour, then day of the month, then month and day of the week. We write it in this pattern. Okay, this is minute, that 00 minutes. Hour is 5, 5th hour. Star means any day, any month and any day of the week. Okay, so this basically means that build the project every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Right, so it's actually 0 minutes and 5 hours. So I'm telling Jenkins that it can build at every 5 o'clock in the morning. You will get the output that would have run the last would last run be at Friday, July 11th, 2014 at 5 o'clock in the morning. Then the next one would be on Saturday, July 12th at 5 o'clock in the morning. You got my point? If I change it to say 2, it will be 2 o'clock in the morning. Right? So you can specify like this. So this will build once in a day, every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Another example, if you want it at 12 o'clock in the midnight, then you can put 0 in front of it. Okay. If you want that every Wednesday, 5 o'clock in the morning, your build should run. Okay. every Wednesday 5 o'clock in the morning your build should run, then you can give this command. This means that in the end I have mentioned the day of the week. The day of the week is third week. Okay, sorry, the third day. Third day of the week is Wednesday, right? Any month, any day, right? At 5 o'clock in the morning the script will run. So this is mentioned over here as well. If you do some mistake in this, you will get an error as invalid input. So you can try the permutations and combinations which you like, and you will be able to learn. Okay, now moving further, I'll talk about this in some time. So if I want the script to run every 5 minutes, okay, every 5 minutes, you can mention this like this: h divided by 5. First is minute. Okay, so this will run the script every 5 minutes, every hour, every day, every month, every day of the week. H is a generic term. Fine. To allow, see this is the description over here, to allow periodic schedules to tasks to produce even load on system. The symbol H means hash should be used wherever possible, right? So H is a generic term, right? H divided by 5 means every 5 minutes the script will run. Or you can also write like this: 0 to 59 represents minute, 0 to 59 divided by 2, that means every 2 minutes the script will run. Or you can simply type H as well, whatever is comfortable with you. Fine. If I write like this, if I want the script to run every 1 minute, okay, if I write the script to run every 1 minute, and if I write like this, now this is a little confusing for Jenkins as well. Now what do you mean by divided by 1? Okay, so it says that, do you really mean every minute when you say this? So actually it understands you that fine, you mean that every minute that script should run. If I type h divided by 1, now the problem will come up. Okay, it will think that it is every hour. Okay, so there is a little catch over here. You cannot just expect it to be perfect. So better is that if you want it to run every 1 minute, you do it like that. But generally we don't run the scripts every 1 minute. Okay, it will create a lot of issues. You know, a lot of things get downloaded, and when you work on huge scale projects and all, it's not feasible to run the project every 1 minute. Fine. If you want to run every hour, then this is actually the command. If you type h divided by 1, it will actually run the build every 1 hour. Alright, fine. Or every 1 hour you can simply write h as well. Okay, now what does this mean over here? H divided by 6. If I type over here h divided by 6, now h is the hour. Fine. So this means that run the scripts every 6th hour. Okay, so suppose the first one run is at 12 o'clock, the next run will be at 6 o'clock. Okay, so you can decide whatever you want to. For example, I say that run the scripts every 1 minute. I give this command and I save my project. So what will happen is that every 1 minute the project would be built. If I save this project and if I go to the dashboard, so this project would be built every 1 minute. Fine. So we'll check the status of this project after 1 minute. Okay, right? So what I did was, I've got 5 options: start, 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 start. So you can use any one of them, or pop-up, or combinations and permutation combinations of multiple options, and you can schedule your scripts. Okay, and this is what Jenkins is all about. Fine, it can check whether everything is okay on the server at every frequent interval or not. Or it can also check on the server. If I configure my project, if I would have selected this option instead of selecting build periodically, if I would have selected build when a change is pushed to GitHub or Paul SCM, right? If any change, if developer changes something on the server, okay, you want Jenkins to execute the build at that time, you can also do that, right? We'll talk about that later on. Let's go back to the dashboard and let's go back to the project, and you will see that if you go to the project over here, you'll see that the last build was 48 seconds ago. It was build number 3 and everything was okay. It's printing the time over here. Fine, we had written echo time command, right? Alright, now moving further, what if the build fails? This is a simple project, okay? I'm not talking about very complex things in the beginning. This is a very simple project, okay? What if the build fails? When the build fails, you want an email should be sent to someone, okay? So you can configure over here, fine, and you can configure the project, and I'll deliberately make my build fail. I'll just write XYZ over here. There is no command on the XY on the command prompt like XYZ. It is saying it will fail the build. That command is not recognized. Now you can add post build actions. That what you want to do. There are a lot of things. You can build other projects, publish the report, right? Publish the Java doc, whatever you want. Fine. I will initially take email notification. Fine. Email notification has to be sent to some people, like I sent it to my email ID. Okay, and what will happen is that I'll save it. When the project fails, email will be sent to that. But before that, you have to modify the mail server settings in Jenkins. Okay, you have to go to manage Jenkins over here and go to configure system, right? When you go to configure system and scroll down, you will have this SMTP server option. Click on advanced. Give the SMTP server as your if you want. Right now I'm using Gmail. If you have your company and you want to configure it over there, you'll have to give your company server settings over here. What's the username, what's the password of the inbox from which you want to send the email. Use SSL. This is the SMTP port number of Gmail server, okay, and reply to this address. If person tries to reply back, to which email ID should he reply, right? So you can do this, and you can click on the checkbox test configuration by sending test email, and you click on test configuration and you get some, okay, I have to give some destination email on which I have to send the email. Okay, fine, I'll give my email address only, that send it to this address, and I'll just test out the configuration first. Okay, I click on test configuration again and fail to send out an email. Username and password not accepted. Okay, hold on. I've given a wrong thing over there. Hold on. Right. So you don't get an error and you get the message email was sent successfully. I have not opened my inbox over here, but I am very sure that the email would be there in my inbox by now. So test configuration will actually, you should always test your configuration. It will actually test whether everything is okay or not. Fine. So give these settings over here, then go back to your make sure that you save it as well. Yes, save it as well and go back to your project. Okay, see, my project is failing now. 1 minute happened and the build is running every 1 minute. Okay, if I go to the project, if I look at the last build, everything is in red. You go to the console output. So XYZ is not a recognizable command, so it's saying, and it's not able to send the email as well. Okay, username and password are not accepted. I changed the password over there. In the next build, it will work. Fine. If I look at, see, the build is running now. When this thing is glowing, right, then the build runs. Okay, when it switches on and off, that means the build is running, and this is the progress information that it started around 4.6 ago. Build has been executed for this much time. So let it run. Probably it is sending the email and it will send the email as well. So you can configure your project like this. Okay, you can configure that at certain intervals, fine, the project should be built, and if some error is there, an email should actually be sent. Okay, so this is about Jenkins. This is the basic of Jenkins, that is, you can execute a simple batch command and build the project at will and build at intervals. Fine. Now let us see how you can invoke and commands, how you can run a Selenium TestNG project, okay, with ant, right, by configuring it with Jenkins. Alright. Now before I move forward with Jenkins and configuration, right, I'll just first of all cancel the periodic builds over here because it will spam my inbox. Alright, now Jenkins configured with and how to run your build.xml with Jenkins. This is the major thing. Fine. So what will happen is that your project is lying on the server. Okay. This will be your build.xml file, right? The and build.xml file, and you need to run it. Now I have explained about ant and all everything in module number 9. Fine. If you have not seen module 9, please watch it. I am assuming that you have seen module 9. In module 9, I told you how to configure ant and how to actually Maven as well with the TestNG, how to run some custom listeners and all. So I had made this project in module 9, right? Hold on. I had made this project known as TestNG custom reports. Remember? Okay. And this had no, this never had build.xml. Hold on. Just 1 minute. This one is not having. Okay, it's on the other one. Hold on. Yeah, so this is the project custom reporting, in which I have got two test suites, suite A and suite B. This is my testng.xml file, right, in which I had reported my listener class as well, and this was build.xml. Build.xml was the file which was actually executing everything. Fine. So I talked about this one. Alright, so this is a small project, okay, in which two test suites are there, and then there is testng.xml file which includes the test suites, and when you run, both the test suites gets executed, both all the test cases, in the dummy test cases. These are dummy test cases. I'm not actually invoking Selenium, but the basic concept is that with ant the test cases should get executed and there should be some kind of report you get. Alright, now what I can do is, right, what I can do is I can either run this project which is there on my local machine. Fine, I just told you that this is your server. Generally in industry what happens is that this project would be on server, right, but right now I am not putting it on my server and executing it. I'll show that to you, but I'll show that to you later on. I'll put it on the GitHub server and I'll execute it. Right now I'll put this file on my local machine. This is my local machine. Under this particular path I am keeping this build.xml, and I'll run this project from my local machine. So I'll copy this path. Fine, I'll go back to my localhost Jenkins. Hold on. I'll go back to Jenkins and this will be my project. Okay, and I'll configure it. Out here in the build steps, fine, I'll delete the batch command. I will not take the batch command now. I'll say that I want to invoke the ant when I need to build the project. Fine, and you mentioned the ant targets over here, and in advanced section mention the ant build file as well. I am assuming you have got ant configured in your local machine. right? You have your and home and all those variables set. Okay, so under this project at this location I am having build.xml file. Fine. And in that build.xml I want to run the targets, compile and say run. Right, so I'll just run these two targets, compile and run. Fine. And I will save my project. Okay, I'll go to my project and say build now, and what will happen is that if you look at this bar, it will say that building my project. Now this build process is a little long. Fine, that's why you're able to see the earlier one was just printing something. Okay, if you go to my project and you go to the last build in console output, you will see all those commands which you used to get on the command prompt with and you get them in Jenkins over here. Okay, there are total test runs are 12, failures are 4 and skips are 0. This is the output log which we were getting in a module 9 as well. So this is a simple command. Okay, this is a simple and execution which I have taken in my local machine. So you can run and on local machine, or you can run your ant on a remote server as well. Alright, now moving further, I told you how to run with ant on a local machine, but on a server I'll move forward with the Jenkins and configuration. Right, I'll just first of all cancel the periodic builds over here because it will spam my inbox. Alright, now Jenkins configured with and how to run your build.xml with Jenkins. This is the major thing. Fine. So what will happen is that your project is lying on the server. Okay, this will be your build.xml file, right? The and build.xml file, and you need to run it. Now I have explained about and all everything in module number 9. Fine, if you have not seen module 9, please watch it. I am assuming that you have seen module 9. In module 9 I told you how to configure and how to actually Maven as well with the testng, how to run some custom listeners and all. So I had made this project in module 9, right? Hold on. I made this project known as testng custom reports. Remember? Okay. And this had no, this never had build.xml. Hold on. Just 1 minute. This one is not having. Okay, it's on the other one. Hold on. Yeah, so this is the project custom reporting in which I have got two test suites, suite A and suite B. This is my testng.xml file, right, in which I had reported my listener class as well, and this was build.xml. Build.xml was the file which was actually executing everything. Fine, so I talked about this one. Alright, so this is a small project, okay, in which two test suites are there, and then there is testng.xml file which includes the test suites, and when you run, both the test suites gets executed, both all the test cases, in the dummy test cases. These are dummy test cases. I'm not actually invoking Selenium, but the basic concept is that with AND the test cases should get executed and there should be some kind of report you get. Alright, now what I can do is, right, what I can do is I can either run this project which is there on my local machine. Fine, I just told you that this is your server. Generally in industry what happens is that this project would be on server, right? But right now I am not putting it on my server and executing it. I'll show that to you, but I'll show that to you later on. I'll put it on the GitHub server and I'll execute it. Right now I'll put this file on my local machine. This is my local machine. Under this particular path I am keeping this build.xml, and I'll run this project from my local machine. So I'll copy this path Fine. I'll go back to my localhost Jenkins. Hold on. I'll go back to Jenkins and this will be my project. Okay. And I'll configure it. Out here, in the build steps, fine, I'll delete the batch command. I will not take the batch command now. I'll say that I want to invoke the ant when I need to build the project. Fine. And you mention the ant targets over here, and in advanced section mention the ant build file as well. I am assuming you have got ant configured in your local machine, right? You have your ant home and all those variables set. Okay, so under this project at this location I am having build.xml file. Fine. And in that build.xml I want to run the targets, compile and say run. Right, so I'll just run these two targets, compile and run. Fine. And I will save my project. Okay, I'll go to my project and say build now, and what will happen is that if you look at this bar, it will say that building my project. Now this build process is a little long. Fine, that's why you're able to see the earlier one was just printing something. Okay, if you go to my project and you go to the last build in console output, you will see all those commands which you used to get on the command prompt with ant. You get them in Jenkins over here. Okay, there are total test runs are 12, failures are 4 and skips are 0. This is the output log which we were getting in module 9 as well. So this is a simple command. Okay, this is a simple ant execution which I have taken in my local machine. So you can run ant on local machine, or you can run your ant on a remote server as well. Alright, now moving further, I told you how to run with ant on a local machine, but on a server I'll tell you. Right, now I also talked about little bit about build triggers. I can set up a trigger in this project. Okay, I can tell that fine, there is a trigger that I need to run the ant script every 10 minutes. What will happen is that my local project will start running every 10 minutes, and if it fails, I've already set the mailing notification that if the notification fail, if the project fails, then an email notification will be sent out to these many people that the project has failed. Alright, and moreover, the reports, the ant reports and all, everything will get generated under the test output folder over here. Fine. And you can also generate the XSLT reports of ant. You just need to configure it properly, and you have the target make XSLT reports over here, with which you can make the XSLT reports as well. Fine. Alright, now moving further. Okay, what if I want to execute this on a remote machine, on a remote server, for example GitHub. Right, now what is Git, what is GitHub? These are two different words. Okay, Git is a repository system. Fine, it is very different from GitHub. Git is a repository. GitHub is the server which maintains that repository. It's a website. Okay, hold on. First of all, it will get clear to you. Fine, you go to google.com, fine, and just type download Git. Fine, when you type this, you go to the website gitscm.com, right, and you go and download Git from here based on your operating system. Fine. Now Git will help you to version your code. Okay, Git will help multiple people in a team to upload code to a server. Fine. Now there can be many Git servers. These servers are paid servers. Okay, these are not free servers. Git is a tool which can help you in maintaining the version of the code on the server. It can help you to download the code on the server. It can help you to create branches or create forks, right? So Git is a tool which helps you in all these things. Fine. But the code, where it will lie on some server, right? On some repository. There are a lot of repositories on the internet. The most famous one is github.com. Fine. I have a free account on this. You can also create a free account on GitHub server, and you can interact with that account using Git, which you will download. Okay. Now I will just log in into my account. The free Git account, and after logging in you see that I've got various repositories over here: simple, Selenium, practice, Selenium. So these are code projects. Okay, if I click on this project, then it's got the same set of classes which were there on my local machine under custom reporting. It's got same set of project structure. Now this project is on server. This is not on my local machine. Fine. And I can execute the project on the server as well. Alright, this is a free server, GitHub. I've created just a free account. In your company you can have a paid server as well, or a company server as well. So it depends. Alright, now let us see how you can download Git, install Git, upload your projects to a Git server like an not an open source but a free server like github.com. Fine. And github.com is free to some level, and after that it is actually paid. Fine. So we are using this the free part of it. Okay. So how you can upload the code, download the code from the repository. So this is a repository. This repository can be accessed by multiple people in the project. And when they are accessing this repository, if any wrong check-in goes inside this repository and the code is not building, so what Jenkins will do, it will automatically build the code, and if it fails, it will send an email to everyone. Fine. Alright, so let's start with Git now and see how you can configure it in your system.